So this week, Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth convened over 800 military leaders from all over the world, admirals and generals, to hear some screed that was kind of a mixture of, well, here's a little bit of a sample.
I think we should maybe start thinking about battleships, by the way. Lore. That's L-O-R-E.
We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans.
I'm a very aesthetic person, and I don't like some of the ships you're doing aesthetically. They say, oh, it's stealth. I said, that's not stealth.
It was such an inappropriate speech for top military officers that the president had to remind the audience that it was okay for them to applaud.
And if you want to applaud, you applaud.
Which kind of reminded me of this scene.
Get back in the business of creating a more peaceful world. Please clap.
But of course, applause wasn't appropriate for that kind of a partisan screed in front of our top military officers. There was nothing appropriate, in fact, about that speech by either the president or the Secretary of Defense. But it wasn't just that it was a waste of time. There were some things in it were deeply disturbing. Pete Hegseth and the president also talked about how much pride they took in changing the name, or at least trying to change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, with Hegseth even going so far as to saying the name change would somehow lead to more peace. That scene kind of reminded me of this scene from Dr. Strangelove.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Pete Hegseth, for his part, spent most of his time talking about the physical standards for flag officers, his desire that they have a rigorous fitness regime, and giving them grooming advice about how much facial hair they should have. He also took the opportunity to plug his book. One thing he wasn't clear on is whether this physical fitness standard would apply to the commander-in-chief. But besides the absurdity of all of this, there were elements of the president's speech that were just downright dangerous. Most particularly this comment.
We're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within, controlling the physical territory.
That's right. He's telling America's top military officers that there is a war going on against an enemy within, and that they will play a key role in that war. Now, what is the president talking about here? Who is the enemy within? Well, I can speak from some personal experience because the president has referred to me in the past as the enemy within, as he has other Democratic leadership in the Congress of the United States. But here I think he's talking more generally about people in American cities that he considers to be the enemy, and that he wants to turn our own U.S. military against our own people. People that he disagrees with, people who are exercising their First Amendment rights of speech and protest. He wants to turn the military against. Here's another comment of Donald Trump at that meeting with the generals that should raise alarm bells for all of us.
And I told Pete, we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
That's right. He's saying that America's cities should be a training grounds for our military. That is, they should be training to use force in our cities so that they can use force in other places around the world to defend the country. Hard to imagine a more dangerous, more disastrous commentary from the President of the United States about the role of the American military. For one thing, it's totally illegal. It's been against the law for almost 150 years since the Posse Comitatus law to deploy the military for domestic law enforcement purposes. This is continually being challenged in court, and the lower courts are finding it unconstitutional. Sadly, the Supreme Court of the United States is allowing these harms to go on until these cases are fully litigated. But that's a different problem with our democracy from a runaway and rogue Supreme Court. But the president telling generals and admirals to use American cities as a training ground to go after the enemy within, that should concern all Americans, because he may be talking about Portland today, or Chicago, or Los Angeles, or San Francisco, but there is nothing stopping him from talking about whatever city you live in and deploying the military there, should people in your city decide to speak out against this man who would be king or any of his policies. Now here's the thing. The president wants a confrontation. He is sending these troops to cities where he is hoping for a confrontation so that he can crack down even further, so that he can justify after the fact sending troops to cities and claim that it was necessary when it is the presence of the troops that is the provocation. This is his goal. So what do we do about this? Well, there are two things we do about this. First, we continue in the Congress and in the courts to challenge this lawless, unconstitutional abuse of our military. An abuse, by the way, that contrary to what the president says, is not going to be training them in a way that helps them defend the country against foreign enemies. In fact, it is going to adversely impact the readiness of the military. It is going to mean we're less prepared for external threats. It's going to mean our military is spending more time on things that are unconstitutional for them to be doing. But in addition to that, it is causing Americans to distrust their own military. In Los Angeles, where the president began this enterprise of using military against our own cities, the president deployed thousands of Guard members, National Guard members, over the objection of our governor and our mayor, but also deployed hundreds of Marines, simply wasted their time to make a political statement in the hopes of provoking some kind of a violent reaction in Los Angeles. This injures the trust and the relationship between the American people and their military when they see their military being abused this way. So we need to keep challenging this in the courts and in the Congress. But also, we need to deprive the president of the pretext he wants to try to crack down further. So let's keep our protests peaceful and avoid giving the president the pretext he wants to further crack down on the American people. So thanks for watching tonight's video. We started doing these nightly videos as a way of identifying something really important that happened today or this week, what we should make of it, and how we can fight back. As you can see, I like to include movie clips. If you have any suggestions for other movie clips I should include in future videos, please share them with us. And thank you for following along.